You see, as I've been saying on different channels, and I can repeat at the cost of repetition again, but whenever a country wants to buy a fighter jet, it sees mainly four things. Number one is the performance of the machine. That means the engine, thrust, running rate, weapons, maintenance, and everything. Number two is the affordability. That means, is it cost effective? That's number two. Number three is very critical, the credibility of the country which is providing that weapon. In case of this case, it is Pakistan. Number four is this aircraft battle tested or combat proven or not? And then on top of that, when it qualifies, comparing the other contemporary fighter jets, obviously the people see that it will be the Pakistan Air Force pilots and then engineers and technicians who's going to train, obviously, those air forces. That's another, what they say, the feather in the cap. That's number one. This aircraft has been performing phenomenally for last about 20 years. When it was inducted into Pakistan Air Force and obviously has been consistently upgraded into Block 1, 2, and 3. We not only saw this aircraft performing so well in May 2025, but we also are proud of its performance in February 2019 when Abhinandan was shot down. In that combat, it was a huge fleet. Pakistan Air Force early had pitched against the Indian Air Force, obviously, and JF-17 Thunder was part of that fleet. So that was the moment the aircraft started to get the attention of it, and that is why the first country to buy was Nigeria, obviously a few years back, and then obviously came 2025. It was part of that fleet which flew between 6th and 7th May, past midnight, 12:30 a.m. till 1:30 a.m. what the combat went in. The composition fighter aircraft was J-10C, JF-17 Thunder Block 3, and F-16s. So these were the aircraft. And obviously, the closing comment for me is that world was watching it. Obviously, when they saw what this aircraft did, and obviously the performance, and especially when they compare the cost of this aircraft, the affordability, the maintenance of this aircraft with the contemporary aircraft, Typhoon aircraft, J-10, Rafale, these are the contemporary jet fighters. And they're almost 3 to 4 times higher in price as compared to JF-17 Thunder. So imagine an aircraft which is obviously modernizing its Air Force or wishes to modernize the Air Force, but has constraints of budget. Most of the Western countries obviously are attached with two limitations. One, that they're very expensive. And the other thing is obviously the West puts in a lot of strings to political obligations to that country, that you will do do's and don'ts for that particular country. That has not been the case in case of Pakistan. So that probably is a major factor which stands this in the favor of this aircraft. You see, all these aircraft you just named are 4.5 generation aircraft. That means obviously they can carry beyond visual range missiles. They have partial significant signature controlling elements, which all aircraft, all of these have. They can carry a good number of load. They're good in air-to-air, and they're good in air-to-ground combat, number one. These aircraft obviously are important, but they are almost close to $100 million. So that huge a price, a developing country, which obviously in our case has been Myanmar, Nigeria, Bangladesh, Iran, Iraq, these countries who are interested in this aircraft, obviously it's a kind of prohibitive price for these developing air forces, almost 100 million per piece. So in that, obviously, you can buy 3 or 4 JF-17 Thunders. So in smaller Air Force, the number also matters. So that has been the major reason that it has outbeaten all these aircrafts, especially in the price, reliability, as I said, and most important factor that I mentioned earlier was that this aircraft has been battle tested and combat proven. Exactly, you put it right. These countries, obviously, they do not want any political or economical ties tied with the deal, obviously. It should be free of it. There should not be an obligation. Let your viewers understand better when I offer a simple case of F-16, which were bought by Pakistan Air Force in 82, 83. This has been almost 43 years that we've been using this aircraft. We got almost 40 aircraft from USA when Afghan, obviously, war was going on and Soviet Union had occupied. These 40 aircraft obviously flew. They became part of the Air Force, Pakistan Air Force, and they went on. When 1989 came, that's the time we had paid almost $658 million to United States for another about 28 aircraft. Our amount was held back after, obviously, Soviet Union disintegrated and pulled out of Afghanistan. Our money was held back. We were denied the aeroplanes. Instead, as a replacement, we were offered wheat. Now you compare the kind of curtailment of the liberty of action of a particular air force, which want a 28 F-16 fighter, and you tell the country you better buy wheat. And we were helpless. And not only that, the agony went more severe when they stopped our spare parts of the existing 40 aircraft, which were already flying. So we became literally hostage to the supply of the spare parts and obviously the technology transfer and even the new aircraft. So that is the time, 1989, Pakistan Air Force learned that it will continue to be a kind of obliged to the supplier country in case we do not develop an aircraft. That is why in almost 200 countries, Pakistan Air Force is the only air force which is making its own fighter jet. And it did not take them much, just 6 years to conceive, plan, and put the drawing on the table was 1995. And in last 30 years, let me add here, in last 30 years, we have almost close to 200 JF-17 Thunders, part of Pakistan Air Force. On the other hand, India, in last 40 years, because they conceived this aircraft Tejas in 1985, and last 40 years, they have 40 aircraft part of their Air Force, and none was deployed in May conflict because they were not confident of this aircraft taking part effectively in the battle against Pakistan. So that tells you the whole story. Credibility is the most thing. Let me give you a last line on this. Tejas has been developed by Hindustan Aeronautical Limited, as you must be knowing about it. Hindustan Aeronautical Limited company has been criticized by Indian Air Force, none other than Indian Air Force chief himself, who said that I do not trust Hindustan Aeronautical Company. He said that technology delayed is technology denied. I mean, he's telling his own country manufacturing firm or institution which is manufacturing this aircraft. And that is why you see the element of trust, of global trust. It's lagging because their own Air Force chief is obviously suspicious about the trust that they enjoy with Hindustan Aeronautical Company. So here there is a Pakistan Air Force which is manufacturing its own airplane. It is obviously spearheading. The Air Force chiefs the Air Force chiefs, whosoever is in the chair, looks after this project. So look at the comparison. Look at the comfort level. Last point on this is that Pakistan Air Force chief has had 15 Air Force chiefs meeting with different Air Force chiefs of the world in last only 3 months. With this obviously in mind that obviously we should grow economically, militarily. And most important thing to remember on this is that when you have a deal with any of these countries, it is not one-time deal. You are transferring basically technology, a sovereignty, a trust, and almost 30 to 40 years of mutual understanding and collaboration. And obviously that can lead to the economic collaboration later. The military hardware can obviously turn into or expand into the other fields also. So it's a win-win situation, especially for a country like Pakistan. One ready example comes to my mind is Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan has been traditionally, politically, diplomatically, geographically very close to Russia. They were obviously being pressurized by Russia to buy old Egyptian Su-30 aircraft. And Su-30 is a very potent aircraft, no doubt about it. But Pakistan Air Force prevailed and obviously managed to succeed to strike a deal with Azerbaijan. Obviously, one side was Russia. So I understand that obviously we have to have these obligation in mind. There are certain diplomatic obligations which obviously Pakistan has to respect because engine that we used in this aircraft is Russian origin. The rest of the technology, the other technology, about 42% total, we use Chinese origin. And 58% is being manufactured and assembled in Pakistan. Martin Baker ejection seat is from England. So this is what is true for other countries also. The Martin Baker is one of the best, obviously, ejection seat in the world, and obviously many, even the Americans are using that. That is nothing alarming. What I'm trying to give you example is that even Azerbaijan, which was so close to the Russia, even then opted to buy a Pakistani jet. Obviously, we earned it. That's what I'm trying to prove my point to. The Chinese Air Force has not integrated JF-17 Thunder into Chinese Air Force. It's only Pakistan, number one. And at the time of manufacturing, it was supposed to be our product or a baby, number one. And since then, we have had a lot of opportunities, technology transfer. I can tell you with confidence that present Air Force Chief, Air Chief Marshal Zahir Ahmed Babar Sidhu has done a lot for the TOT, which is transfer of technology from China to have lesser dependency on China, number one. And obviously, the lesser dependency that you have on China or Russia, we will have more diplomatic or global or regional obligations Because now if we sell it to a country, we'll have to keep in mind that is it in the comfort zone of Russia and China also? When you are independent all by yourself, you do not even consider which country will be more comfortable or less comfortable. You just sell the aircraft like Americans do, like the Russians do. Because we are in progressing into that stage gradually, so I think time will come, inshallah, we'll have almost 100% this aircraft being made in Pakistan. We will have gradually less and less obligation from the other countries, which now we obviously have to be respectful to. That Pakistan Air Force itself is very mindful that we do not enter into a venture with those countries which are not politically stable, obviously, which do not enjoy the reputation in the eyes and comity of the nation, which are in violence of United Nations, that tomorrow United Nations might put up some sanctions or some resolution against that country. So there is serious deliberation which goes in before you decide a country. There are numerous countries. Let me share that there are 3 African countries, I can confirm it to you without taking the names, which are very keen to buy and induct their JF-17 into their air forces. But Pakistan Air Force is very seriously considering whether to go for it. These are the criteria that I've just mentioned, that Pakistan Air Force is considering, that viability, the political stability, reliability from the point of view of the payment of that aircraft. Maybe the political or economic stability does not warrant tomorrow for the aircraft the remaining payment are stalled out. So I think Pakistan Air Force is doing a lot of homework before obviously they do a kind of green signal for supplying of the airplanes. No other Air Force would be needing so much integration what Pakistan Air Force needed. You see, we are flying F-16 from US. We were flying MiG-7, F-7, which was a MiG-21 origin from China. JF-17 Thunder, obviously partially made in China and Pakistan. We were flying Mirages from France. So you can imagine the best integration probably in practice would be in Pakistan Air Force. So who else would better know what's called integration and what's called multi-domain operation and what's called one kill picture and what is known as orchestration of the war. Obviously, we had Link 17, which is used and built in Pakistan. That's the best news. Built in Pakistan to integrate all these weapons. So during May conflict, I can confirm it to you, Link 17 was used, integrating all the pictures, not only of the fighters, but airborne early warnings, the jammers, the ground cyber command, satellite picture, air defense weapons and sensors. So all was integrated locally. So if there is a need, obviously, need to need basis, Pakistan Air Force will look into the requirement and obligation of that particular country in case a country is obviously operating more than one source or more than obviously Western or Russian combination or Chinese, probably that will be seen case to case. That's a very good question, but presently we have a capacity of about 16 to 18 aircraft per year. And that should make us pleased. Let me also tell you, Rafale company, which is obviously a French company in the first world, was making in 2023, just 2 years back, just 13 aircraft per year. And in 2024, they upgraded it to 21 aircraft. So Pakistan lies in the middle of both. That means obviously there is a huge economic power, one of the best aircraft manufacturing Rafale company. We're very close to it. Now, let me dispel another impression in the mind and hearts of the people. They fear what you obviously rightly asked the question, will Pakistan Air Force will be able to obviously supply this aircraft without compromising the need of the Pakistan Air Force? The answer is yes. We have a lot of technology being transferred obviously into Pakistan now. The expansion of the manufacturing facilities have been recently upgraded. We are also getting experience from Pakistan fighter jet PFX program number. And most important, which we must highlight here and I must share with you is that no country, even if some country gives us an order of 40 JF-17 Thunder, it does not mean that on the day of delivery, all 40 aircraft will fly into the airspace of that country. Let me give you an example from the history. All countries do that. You need the pilot training only 5-6 hours to get them operational with a couple of weeks ground training, and the pilots are capable. Engineers and technicians do not take a couple of weeks. They take sometimes years for the training because they have to maintain, rectify the aircraft. So it's a long process, number one. Another thing, important thing is that all countries which supply the aeroplanes do not supply in bulk. They give you almost 2 aircraft which are dual-seater for the training and 3 aircraft which are obviously single-seater for the pilot to get their hands on. Let me give you an example from the history. We got F-16s from America in 1982-83. Only 6 were given first, and then came 6, and then gradually they kept coming. Let me give you J-10C, which we got from China. 6, then 6, and then 8. Let me, the most relevant example, which should be more exciting and most relevant for us was that India signed a contract with France of Rafale, which they got 36 in number in 2016. And if you recall very correctly, because you're a very senior journalist, you will recall that Abhinandan shooting led to Modi saying that had we received Rafale, the things would have been different. That was 2019 February. The deal had been stuck almost 3 years back, and they had still not gotten Rafale, number one. So they got it after about 3.5 years, end of 2019. So what I'm trying to tell you, the first aeroplane is coming after 3.5 years of contract signing. And most interesting part is that all 36 aircraft were completed in almost 6 years. So if a country is signing, these are only 36 aircraft. So if a country is signing a deal with us about 20 aircraft or 30, they will not be and will not be obliged to, and they will not be expecting those deliveries in one go. We will provide them 2 dual-seater or 3 dual-seater, depending on the training, 4 to 5 aircraft or 3 to 4 aircraft, single-seater, for them to do the initial training, to train the technician and engineer and the ground staff to master that aircraft. Even if you supply them on one day, the first day we land 40 aircraft hypothetically in that country, who's going to fly that? They don't know how to operate. They don't know how to fly. So that takes years and years of transformation from one weapon system to till they call it mastering the technology and mastering the aeroplane. I think that, I hope I make my point clear. You see, I can share with you that numerous are engineers and technicians, they undergo training extensively, not only here, but in China also. So obviously we do anticipate, and especially after May 2025, this present Air Force Chief, Air Chief Marshal Zahir Ahmed Babar Sidhu, has been very actively foreseeing this coming. This is not a surprise or a pleasant surprise for Pakistan Air Force. Many countries are showing interest. So even before he took, obviously, when he took the command in 2021, he wanted maximum transfer of technology, and he's been working on not only the pilot training, the technician, the engineers, but the equipment and machinery also. So we have been doing that, and our people are ready, obviously, to transfer, as I said, the technology, education, obviously, and train those people. So there has been a foresightedness on this project also, that suddenly we cannot prepare our engineers or technicians overnight. So we have a good pool where obviously we are going to balance it out with selectively and periodically and sequentially with those countries which obviously, and let me tell you, and as a last point add here, that obviously we will have to calculate our manpower accordingly. We will not commit to 5 countries in one go, okay, next week our people will be there. Because we know our manpower, we need to stagger obviously the skilled manpower, and we will have to stagger them country-wise. Which country is offering what package, what cost, what's the urgency, and how big is obviously the deal. So it probably these are the factors that I can think of which will be important in transferring of the manpower, skilled manpower for their training. Obviously, that will be dependent on that. You see, Pakistan is the only developing country which is making the fighter jet. Rest are, if you name, I can name them in numerous countries, but major US has been there, Russia, China, Italy, France, UK. But major are the 4 or 5 countries that I've just mentioned, Russia and China and America. These are the countries, obviously, other than France, will have to let go their market share in favor of Pakistan and JF-17 Thunder. Because rest, nobody's making in the world. India has not been able to export a single fighter jet. Turkey has been really advanced in aeroplane making, but they are in the final stage of making their own Khan aircraft, which has not been marketed yet. It is under trial and finishing almost the final trial and everything. So Pakistan Air Force jet has been the market. This is the only developing country jet or third world country or whatever you call it has been the market. Rest has been the domain of the either the superpowers or the economic superpowers of global players who have marketed or launched their aircraft. This is the only country which is developing itself and still been able to have the confidence to punch in this aircraft into the market. The aircraft that you took the name of in the first question, the Typhoon, the J-10C, the Rafale, and those are the aircraft which will probably have to leave the space for this aircraft, because most of the time all these aircraft that you took the name in the first question are 4.5 generation. This aircraft being 4.5 generation, obviously finding its space because of, as I said, numerous factors which I said in the first question. Cost effectiveness, number one, combat proven, obviously. This is a clear edge probably other jets would find difficult to beat, this jet. I think it's mix of all question that we have discussed already. Definitely, if there is $100 million a fighter jet, and there is a jet, and the jet obviously being offered by Pakistan is a 3 or 4 times less cost, with much more credibility, much more combat record. So when that is put together, anybody, not even if I was not a Pakistani, if I was a simple fighter pilot from any air force of the world, I would put my finger on this aircraft. Why? Because logically it comes down to be the only choice. So I think this aircraft will not win the contracts based on some relationship or favoritism. It will win the contracts, inshallah, on merit, the combat, the cost, the reliability, and obviously Pakistan standing behind that jet, obviously.